This presentation is brought to you by Rebecca Blauw and Annette Spence. We are both teachers at Central Elementary School. Our presentation is on culturally responsive teaching.
Culture is defined in many ways and has tangible and intangible components, including literature, cooking, dress, games, notions of modesty, conception of beauty, ideals governing child raising, rules of descent, tempo of work, patterns of group decision making, conceptions of cleanliness, attitudes to the dependent, I behavior, nature of friendship, conception of self, patterns of visual perception, body language, facial expressions, notions about logic and validity, patterns of handling emotions, conversational patterns in various social contexts, conception of past and future, ordering of time, and the list goes on. Major researchers in the field of culturally responsive teaching include Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, Dr. Geneva Gay, and Dr. Jacqueline Jordan Irving. And here are a few of their thoughts.
I think people, when they use the term culturally responsive or culturally relevant pedagogy, forget that the base of the word is culture. So culture has to do with worldviews, beliefs, language. It has to do with values.
Culture, to me, at its essence, are the things that, those filters that help us as human beings make sense out of the most ordinary thing.
I think that culturally competent teachers think of their students as a group of people from whom they can learn. Would always say you have to study the students. You know, I always say to my own students, do you actually think that Martin Luther King's fourth grade teacher said, oh my goodness, Martin Luther King Jr. is here? She probably said, this is Reverend King's son. I guess I have to work with him, but, you know, these preachers' kids are maybe a pain in the neck. You know, that's a very human response to have. But it was Martin Luther King. But you can't know. So you don't know where the next cure for cancer is coming from. You don't know where Bill Gates is sitting. You have no idea where Toni Morrison is. You don't have any clue that Cesar Chavez is sitting there ready to, at some point in his life, lead farm workers. So you have to teach as if they're in that classroom. They're there somewhere. That's what you see among culturally competent teachers. The other thing that you often see among culturally competent teachers is their understanding that there's probably more expertise distributed in the classroom than there is within any one person. So much of their work is work that helps kids collaborate and become more interdependent to work with each other.
So culturally relevant pedagogy, one of the primary premises is that teachers take students' everyday lived cultural experiences and make the appropriate linkages between what the students know and do and understand, and come up with examples, comparisons, and contrasts. They make the connections. They are cultural translators. They are cultural bridge builders. I think when we talk about culturally responsive pedagogy, we have to remember that students approach learning not as cultural blank slates. So they bring into the classroom all of those cultural experiences. And so it is very compatible with what we know about good teaching. Culturally responsive pedagogy builds on students' prior knowledge.
What teachers need to know when instructing students of a different culture. Differences in the world views, clashes in cultural values, cultural-based preferences for learning environments, barriers due to cultural differences. Strategies for culturally responsive teaching. Communication of high expectations. Learning with the context of culture. Student-centered instruction. Culturally meditated instruction. Reshaping the curriculum. Teacher as a facilitator. Be sure to communicate clear expectations. Create a warm environment. Encourage your students to meet expectations for a particular task. Always offer praise and encouragement to students. Devise and implement different ways for students to be successful in achieving developmental milestones. Encourage a community of learners. Bridge cultural differences through effective communication. Vary teaching strategies by creating inquiry-based, discovery-oriented curriculum. Use resources other than textbooks for study. Share responsibility of instruction. Conduct student-directed sharing time. Vary teaching approaches to accommodate diverse learning styles and language proficiency. Use cooperative learning strategies. Create classroom projects that involve the community. Create an environment that encourages and embraces culture. Develop learning activities that are more reflective of students' backgrounds. Learn about students' cultures. Research students' experiences with learning and teaching styles.